as you heard him say, the deal means that in about 6 weeks, there's another threat of a federal government shutdown. Among the entities preparing for possible impacts, airports and the airline industries. I want to bring in Keith Jeffries, the vice president of K2 Security Screening Group. He was a federal security director at LAX for nearly 7 years and joins us now to talk more about how preparations take place and what's done in a situation like this. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So first off, speaking specifically about airlines and the airline industry here, what's going through your mind as you hear at the last minute that a deal has been reached and the federal government is not going to shut down?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great news for all government employees. That's certainly the fact that it was averted, then it'll be business as usual starting next week. The bad news is of course, here we go once again. There's a lot of work and preparation that does go into these things behind the scenes, but it's better to be prepared than not. So it's great for the employees. I'm thrilled to hear that.
And what impact would a shutdown actually have on airports, on passengers? Are we talking about canceled flights, fewer flights? What goes on there?
So, Josh, there's a lot that does go on behind the scenes for all federal agencies as it gets closer and closer to the potential for a shutdown. About 2 weeks out, specifically with TSA, 2 weeks prior to what appears to be a shutdown, there's a ton of communication that goes on between all of the airport stakeholders, for example, all government agencies, the airlines. They're kept up to date day by day on what the strategic plan might be moving forward in the event of a shutdown. So communication is key. There's a significant amount of administrative paperwork that also goes into the behind the scenes element leading up to a shutdown. Essential personnel and non-essential personnel are notified in writing. There's a lot of questions that employees may have. For example, if a shutdown was to continue, how do I pay my bills? And there's a lot of administrative paperwork that the leadership in the field will do to kind of calm the storm, if you will, and let them know that there's help that's out there. The airlines and airport community, I must admit that through the several different times that I've seen the government shutdowns unfortunately occur, during my time with TSA, there were at least 3 shutdowns and many more threats for shutdowns. The community, there's an outreach that really is impressive to see. The airlines and airports get together and meet with the local government agencies at the airport, both CBP and TSA, and they want to know how they can help. They set up food lockers and a variety of other things to make sure that employees are taken care of. As far as flights are concerned, not so much. Unless the shutdown goes on for a significant period of time. It was approaching critical mass back in December of 2018. That one lasted, I believe, for about 34 days, if my memory serves me correctly. That one went quite some time. But again, these employees, they take an oath of office. They're dedicated public servants, and they know that their country needs them. So they show up for work and they get the job done.
And I want to talk a little bit more about planning, and you touched on this here, but how do agencies go about planning for a possible shutdown? I imagine, as you mentioned, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that people don't really see. And when you know that there is the chance for a shutdown, I imagine you have to prepare weeks and weeks, if not months in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's a variety of town halls. One of the things that I specifically did, it's about having town hall meetings with all of the employees throughout the weeks leading up to it. 2 weeks out is really about the extent of it. It starts 2 weeks out because you kind of wait and see what exactly is going to happen. There are letters that are actually prepared that are sent out to all the employees. In my case, we had about 3,500 TSA employees alone covering the 5 airports out in Los Angeles that I was responsible for. You send it out notifying them what are the rules associated with being an essential employee, that you're required to show up for work, that you won't be getting paid during this period of the government shutdown. However, you will eventually get paid for every hour that you do work. Then there's another group of letters that go out to what's called the non-essential personnel. Now, that kind of has a negative connotation associated with it because as far as I'm concerned, all of my employees were essential and valuable to me. But these are the folks that are behind the scenes working in the HR department And at that time, I had just shy of about 100 folks that were identified as non-essential personnel performing a variety of roles. Well, they're the ones actually doing all of the work to get prepared for this. So the rules for non-essential personnel, though, are you're not allowed to come to work. You're going to be furloughed. And hopefully once this shutdown is over with, maybe at the behest of the government, maybe you will get paid for that time that you were out and required to remain home. Each time the government has come through with that. And as far as I'm concerned, that should be done. Those folks that are sent home furloughed, they should get paid. That's just the name of it, Josh.
Of course. Well, Keith Jeffries there, Vice President of K2 Security Screening Group. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. I know it is very early where you are. Is there anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. I do. I think that in the event that this does happen, and it's inevitable that one day it will, one of the things that I was always impressed by is the community, the traveling public, when they come through, just simply saying thanks for being there. When they know that those government employees are not getting paid, that goes a long, long way. And we're just grateful for that. I know that I was during that time frame. So just that simple thank you when they travel through would be certainly appreciated by the workforce.
All right, Keith, thank you again for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. Have a great day.
You too.